Hey everybody. Yeah, sorry about that. I had to, our power went out yesterday and I had to readjust all of the lighting and so forth. So interesting. Anyway, let's dig into it here. I think if I go to workspace, I can do a Laravel new example app. Probably already have example app. Yeah, we do. rm-rf example app. Cool. Let's get that fired up in the background. That should work now. What I want to talk about today is something I'm a little bit on. I've been trying to fix over the last few weeks, and fix is kind of a loose term here. I don't necessarily think this is broken. I think it just has maybe a couple edge casey things about it. So we all know that in Laravel 11, kind of the big feature is the slimming, is the structure, and more specifically, the ability to kind of slim down your configuration files. Originally, these were actually completely removed from the skeleton, and then there kind of started to be a couple little nuances about that were arising close to release, and the team decided to put them back in kind of a slimmed version, but have most of the files there. But you still had the ability, if you wanted to remove them. So there's all sorts of new configuration that you can do with your app configuration now. But what's happening though is even though they put those files back in, you're still able to, of course, slim them or remove them in some kind of way. And so a lot of those edge cases that the team were worried about still kind of exist. So the long story short there is what I'm going to try to do is solve a couple of these issues, is because basically what's happening is the team is kind of just saying on these, we don't officially support removing the file. And, I understand that the team put these files back in last minute, but the ability to remove them and the announcement around the release and the slimming kind of prompted or at least promoted kind of the removal of these files or the ability to slim them. So when I see this, I feel like there's maybe a missed opportunity. The team's super busy. They're doing all sorts of crazy stuff. They're hiring, they're growing, they're expanding, all sorts of secret projects out there. They may not simply have the time to go down kind of this rabbit hole, but I do, and that's what we're going to do on this stream. So I'm going to try to fix this. I fixed one of these last week on my own because someone had actually reported it to Shift, and then they linked the issue, and I saw that the issue was closed. So I kind of dug into it myself and fixed it. It actually was released in Laravel 11.10, which was yesterday. So if we go to Shifty Bits, this is my little newsletter with the announcements, kind of the highlights from the release, but we have now this kind of improved support for remove config files. So basically all this does is kind of those issues that Dries had linked or closed, this one PR real quick fix to basically just make sure that if files were missing, they were preloaded from the base options. Just a couple line change here resolves most of those issues. So now the ones that are out there are kind of just these places in the framework that go and look for a very specific path. So for example, this broadcasting apparently looks for the broadcasting config file, and if it doesn't find it, it just blows up to the point of this issue. So I think we can fix that. That doesn't seem very hard, and it feels like something that, again, if the framework offers this feature, whether it's kind of promoted or not, it's in there. You should be able to do it. So, I think this issue should be fixed. And so I'm going to put a PR for it. So let's go into this example app. Let's see what we have going on here. Oh, we've got so many windows open. Hey, Azir. Hey, Samuel. How's it going? So what do we have here? We have, if we do, I'm trying to think of, well, let's just try to recreate what they have. So what they're saying is, after upgrading, hey, look, with Laravel Shift, they're trying to do broadcasting. So sail, artisan, install broadcasting. So I probably don't need sail. Let's just try to do this. Well, first let's do this. Git init. That way I can back all this out. Git add dot, git, I should have made Laravel new with -- git, but whatever. Laravel new. There we go. All right, cool. Everything's in here. So right now I should be able to run this because the config file exists, right? So would we like to install Reverb? We'll say no. Would we like to install and build the node dependencies required for broadcast? No. Okay, it worked. We didn't have any kind of error. So let's nah this out. And oh, that's interesting. It looks like it added config broadcasting. So what is the exact error here? Here's the command results. Published broadcasting config file. Okay, file does not exist. Okay, app config. Okay, so let's remove config. This might be fixed in the PR I already made. So let's remove the app config file and let's try to run broadcasting again. Okay, cool. We get this error message. All right, cool. So let's go figure out what the framework is actually trying to do on install broadcasting with the app config file and why it actually needs to like read it out. So let's go check that out. Because yeah, if you slim down your app, you don't have app config, we're able to reproduce this error. So let's bring up PHP Storm. I'm gonna get a little drink of my espresso here. All right, so let's bring up the framework. It should be relatively new, but maybe I should jump out to that project. Let's do a git checkout of 11.x, git pull to get the latest. I don't know why it's asking for that. Oh yeah, again, the power went out, so my Mac restarted. All right, cool. Let's go to framework. So we're all caught up on the framework now. What is this file? Install broadcasting. I wish there was like a fuller stack trace here. Oh, here we go. Broadcasting install command. Ooh, my Mac is humming trying to bring in all those dependencies. All right. Let's see what this particular, what line is this? 118. Let's go to 118. Okay, here we go. Enable broadcasting file system, new file system, git app config path app. Oh, they're attempting to uncomment the broadcast service provider. Okay, okay. App providers, broadcast service provider. What should really happen here? Uncomment the broadcast service provider in the application. This is outdated, actually. This is outdated. If you don't have an app config file, you wouldn't be registering your providers there. In fact, in Laravel 11, that's not where you register your providers anyway. So this bug, again, it really should not have been closed because this, I don't even know how this works in config path app. Is config path is config, right? Or does it pull from Bootstrap? Well, that would be wrong anyway. It should put it in packages. This is strange. Enable broadcast service provider. Where's this called? Install bootstrapping. Okay. If not, file exists. Okay. Strange, strange, strange. This is Laravel 11, right? Let me just jump in Composer, make sure I didn't check out the wrong branch or something. Let's get down here. Yeah, this is 11. 11, where's their little version number? There it is. 11.x, yeah. That's strange. Where else does it call app? Does it do anything with package.php? Am I crazy here? Let's go to a Laravel skeleton. In the Laravel skeleton, you do have your app. Do they still have providers in here? See, this is interesting. They don't even have providers in here anymore in your app config. So regardless of if it existed or not, this isn't where it gets commented out anymore, not in Laravel 11. So again, this seems just like this seems like a truly legit issue, has nothing really to do with removing the file, it should put it here in providers. It should append it to this array. That's what it should do. And I know other things do that. So again, I think this broadcast thing just got missed. Let's do a search in here for anywhere where package PHP is mentioned. I want to see if other commands potentially reference this. It doesn't seem like they do. So nothing else references the package config file. Providers. Sorry, it's providers.php. Something's got to do it. Here we go. Application. Git bootstrap providers path. Okay. Who uses this? Provider make command. Here we go. So the add service provider, add provider to bootstrap file. Here you go. Perfect. This is exactly what we wanted. We want this provider make. So when you make a provider, it gets put in there. My understanding is maybe, do we make a provider here? Broadcast service provider. Here we go. It really shouldn't go in the application configuration, not in 11 anyway. Do they make this file though is my question, or is this assumed to be included? Yeah, see, they don't even make this file. Does it get made somewhere else? Or again, is it just assumed to be in? See, if you go back, this is all messed up. I'm very shocked this got closed. I mean, what has this taken us? Like 6 minutes of investigation? This should have got looked at. See, the broadcast service provider existed before. I think the broadcast install command is like, it can't be really, really broken. This isn't the only person to ever use this. It's crazy. How is it this broken? What does this do? I guess it just doesn't do anything. I guess it's harmless. Because there's just nothing. The file exists, but this doesn't contain that, so it doesn't actually replace it. What do they recommend to do? Let's go read the docs. What I'm trying to do is figure out the right approach to solve this. So if we go look at broadcasting, let's see what let's kind of see what they say. Okay, all of your configuration is stored in it. Don't worry if this directory does not exist in your application. It will be created when you run install broadcasting. Okay, great. All right, so we run this command. It'll create that. It'll create that. Queue configuration. Okay, great. When running install broadcasting, you can do reverb. You can add pusher channels. Config broadcasting. See, I feel like this is a relic. If they don't reference the broadcast service provider within the documentation, then I think this was just left over from 10, because it's not the way you do it anymore. Let's find out. Broadcast service. So they don't. Do they reference app service provider? No, they don't. Okay. See, if you go and look at something like events in Laravel, and we search for app service provider, what they do now is they recommend putting stuff in app service provider in Laravel 11 because the event service provider is no more. Same thing happened with broadcast service provider. It's no more. So it's been removed. It's been slimmed. So I think this segment here is just a total relic that doesn't need to be here. And if you remove this, then that fixes the error. And again, this isn't doing anything for pretty much all applications anyways, because it shouldn't be removed, but there should be a check just in case someone didn't upgrade their application properly. There should probably be a check to say, hey, does this app config exist? And does broadcast service provider exist? Like, you shouldn't even mess with this if someone's running a Laravel. Like I'm running a fresh Laravel 11 install, there's no broadcast service providers. So even if this was in my app config, it would end up causing an error because that provider doesn't exist. So I think that's the fix. The fix is check that app config exists and check that the broadcast service provider exists. And if they do, then go ahead and just try to run it. And if it works as it does now. But I think that's the real fix. So let's go back to took a minute to kind of work through the proper fix there because it was actually way more broken than I thought. I thought it was just looking for the app config and like doing something, but it's kind of shocking to me that it was that broken. Again, it wouldn't be broken for Laravel 10 apps that simply bumped your composer dependency, but that's not the right way to do it, people. Come on. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get into we're going to get into the broadcast install command. There it is, broadcasting install command. We're going to just hack down into the framework and prove that this works real fast. So first, let me go back to my example app. Well, let's nah this out. Let's do an rm on config app. Let's just start over again. And now if I do install broadcasting, we get this error. Okay, let me nah this again, remove config app. And what we're gonna do now is, we don't even really need to remove config app alone. It's also the combination of that broadcast service provider not being present. So it's kind of a double whammy. But here, what we can do is we can say if, let's bring this back out. We can say if, oh, they're doing a new file. They're doing all sorts of stuff here. Gosh, this is very dense. All right. Let's var these off and make this less dense because we're going to end up using this. So we'll say file system, new file system, if file system exists, yeah. So if not exists, app config path, and now kind of the tricky part, to, and then or kind of not exist this app service provider. Now, do you make the assumption? How do you like classify that path? I think the framework has a helper. I think they have a helper for this. It's like class path. I thought they had like a, I could have sworn there was some kind of class to path, class base name, class exists. I thought there was like a class name. Crap. Looking for this is not so easy. I don't want to make the assumption that this is just like straight in app providers, but at the same time, like that's kind of what it is. So we'll see how this works in the, yeah, we'll see how this comes across, I think. So we'll just return. So let's finish this, make sure we got it all listed out. Okay, I'm missing some parentheses here, that looked wrong. And then again, for now, we're just gonna assume app providers, wow, broadcast service provider .php. All right, and we'll just dump here like a little hello. All right, so if we remove that and we go back up and do this now, oh, helps when you don't have a syntax error. This is now file system. Okay, hello, look, there we are, hello. So it just skipped over, no big deal. We say no, we say no. It does everything it used to do anyway, but now it just doesn't explode. So if I nah this and remove config, and don't remove config app, but again, now I don't have that provider, it should still get into hello. There we go. So those are the two paths. This supports if you've slimmed your app config file, meaning you wouldn't have anything to uncomment in there anyway, or if you don't have a broadcast service provider, there's nothing to do because the framework's kind of already pre-built everything for you. There's no provider to mess with. Now, the part of this that I don't like is kind of this hard-coded bit. We're assuming that that's where your app provider lives. I think that's a fair assumption for 99.999% applications, because this is also what gets commented out in your app file. So this is the file that the framework gave you at that location. The only way this wouldn't work is if you somehow moved, your app namespace to somewhere else. But again, this would have never worked either if you did that. I mean, this isn't robust to change this to some custom name, right? So before though, let's just end the stream by looking at one last thing. If we look for where that providers, or is it providers.php or providers. Let's look in the framework source. Yeah, I want to see that make provider command. Yeah, do they assume where to put it? And if they assume where to put it, then I think we're safe. So let's see, when you make a provider, does it automatically go to app providers, or how do they determine that path, right? So resolve stub path, okay, fine. Get default namespace, here you go. Okay, so they get the root namespace. Where does this get used? Base method. Okay, so the generator command. Okay. Qualify class. All right. Qualify class starts with name. So they get the root namespace. This Laravel get root namespace. How do they turn that into a path? They are doing a decent job here, I think, of, yeah, here you go. They're kind of replacing the root namespace. They're pulling out the Laravel path. So here you go. Here's where get path works. What is this on? Command? It's a base generator command. All right. So I don't think we're part of the generator command family, unfortunately. I think I'll probably submit it as is. I think this is the right approach. But I feel like this could be a little bit cleaner. But in fairness, if you make this cleaner, then you have to make this cleaner too. And this wasn't cleaner is not the right word. If this is dynamic, if this can be changed, then this should be able to be changed too. And that's currently not changeable in the existing code. So to me, that's like a separate PR of okay, this fixes the bug of if these files don't exist. And then there's another kind of bug where what if these files are in different places, or what if you changed your app name? That would make this command, again, more robust. It's all about making the framework more robust. I don't want to use the word bug. I just think these features need to be more robust. There's a couple edge casey things around the new Laravel 11 file structure that I think are popping up, and they get on my radar because people are reporting them through Shift, or they're referencing them in these issues, and then Dries is kind of like, hey, we're closing this, but I think the right thing to do is fix this, right? So anyway, I'll issue a PR for this. Thanks everybody for joining live, and see you next Wednesday.